Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, January 26, 2021. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope all is well with everybody. So the first thing I want to mention, of course, is our homeless clothes drive that is going to be February 13th. So if you guys have any clothes, any blankets, shoes, tote bags, anything, sheets, linens, anything, pillows, we can use them all as long as they're in good condition and usable and clean and anything without mold. That would be great for us because yes, that will help out a lot of people. So as always, we thank everybody who donates each and every time because we can't do it without you. And if you haven't donated, please go to our GoFundMe on or if you want to donate money, and you can go to our GoFundMe on Facebook at Spirit Communities, or you can contact us at Spirit Communities to go donate some clothes. Yes, it has been a tongue twister type of day today. I know there's a full moon coming up, and I am already feeling the effects of it because I have been having so much trouble speaking today, so I am going to tell you it's probably going to be a rough show today. I don't know why. It's just one of those days where my dyslexia is really strong today, and it just seems like I'm all tripped up. So you know how it goes, but the show must go on. So anyways, yes, we have a full moon coming up on January 28th, and it is a full wolf moon in Leo, and this moon urges you to follow your heart. As always, we should always be following our heart, but yes, this moon in particular, you are going to have this big need, this big draw to follow your heart, this urge to kind of do your own things with no questions asked. So if you've been having a little bit bug kind of whisper to you and tell you that you gotta, you should be doing something and maybe following something or do something that you've been wanting to do, listen to it, because now is the perfect time to do it. It is an amazing time. And as always, with full moons and the energy of the universe being as strong as it is right now, it is the perfect time for you to do that. So if there's something in your heart that you crave and you want to do, make sure you do it, because yes, it is the time. All right, guys, so as always, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, LinkedIn, and Daily Motion. And yes, I don't know why I always want to say Twitter when I see Twitch. I don't know why, and it must be a brain thing. But anyways, the replays will be in the link below as always. So we got a lot of stuff to go over, and I want to get into it. When don't we have a lot of stuff? We always have a lot of stuff. There's a lot of information, and a lot of these subjects can go on for days. But we're going to talk. This is something that I feel that is something that is most needed in the world today, because today we're going to talk about honesty and self-discovery. And I know there's a lot of people out there that do shows that are about finding yourself and discovering the best you and the greatest you and all this stuff. But we're going to go a little bit beyond that, because yes, it is important. We all know that it is important to find out who we are and become who we are, because that brings us in alignment with who we are. But there's ways to get it. And one of the things that I notice is we're not honest anymore. We're not an honest society. It is okay, at least from what I've gathered, it seems to be okay to lie to people constantly. We lie to our children and tell them about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all that stuff, and we lie to, and I know that seems harmless at the time, but we'll get into why that starts the road down to teaching us why honesty is faded out. But we're not honest. It's okay to lie to somebody, or white lies, or if you don't want to hurt them. And we've really become detached when it comes to honor and honesty. And we're going to get into honor as well. But honesty is something that I always constantly bring up, because if we look at what is honesty, we can say, well, it's the quality of being honest, right? As per the definition, it is free of deceit and untruthfulness and sincere. So let me ask you this. How honest of a person are you? Are you always honest? Do you, and if you say yes, well, that's our first lie right there, because we are not honest. And it takes an honest person to start understanding that we're not. We're trained to be that way. We're taught to be that way. And even me, it took me a long time to get out of that, because, you start to see your parents say little white lies, and your teachers and your friends. And of course, I get it. If someone's in an emotional state, you don't want to hurt them, and maybe they're doing something, and they ask you, well, is it my fault? And you don't want to hurt their feelings even more, because they're already an emotional wreck. But at the same time, we lie to them and we say, no, it's not your fault, or oh no, it was her fault or his fault, and we start placing the blame, and we're not helping people by that. We're not being truthful to ourselves and truthful to this. And so we're not free of deceit. We're not free of untruthfulness. We're not sincere. And that's the key word that I wanted to really talk about in honesty, is sincerity. Because a lot of times I say, well, when I teach healing, and I teach the program that I teach, one of the things that I teach to people is honesty, and are you sincere? And it doesn't mean just verbally. Are we sincere with what we're speaking to each other? Because I know there's people out there that are going to say, well, yes, I'm brutally honest, and I don't care if I roll over somebody's feelings or hurt someone's feelings. If they can't take it, well, then that's their problem. Well, you know what, that's not beneficial to our growth either and stuff, because that's trying to be too hard. And so some of the things we have to do is really ask ourselves, how sincere of a person are we? Are we truthfully sincere in the things that we do? Are we sincere in our work? Are we sincere in our friendships? Are we sincere in not only our verbal but our actions as well? Because how many of us do something for somebody out of either we feel we owe them, or to get something out of it, or, hey, I'm going to do this person a favor, and subconsciously we're thinking, well, they're going to owe me a favor later, or we throw it in their face. Well, you know what? I did this for you a couple weeks ago or last month, so you owe me something. And this word of honesty and sincere really kind of play hand in hand. To be honest is to be sincere, because if we're honest with something, we're honest here, and we're honest here. And that's the thing that we have to look at, because sincerity is what brings us to self-discovery. Honesty is what brings us to self-discovery. If we look at the word deception, because we all know what the word deception means, by standard definition, the standard definition of deception is to cause someone to believe something that is not true, typically in order to gain personal advantage. And oh boy, do we do this, don't we? We do this a lot. If you're truly honest with ourselves, how many of us go to heal people because we're trying to heal ourselves? How many of us do something because it makes us feel great, right? We try to get something out. When we work with the homeless, there's nothing deception about it. We work in sincerity and honesty at Spirit Communities and at the radio show here, because I want to make sure that all of us come from a place of truth and sincerity to help people. It's not about me. It's not about Caleb. It's not about anybody else that works here. It is about the people that we reach. And that's the truth and the sincerity of what you do. But if you're sitting there and you go out and you're doing it to make yourself feel good, or make yourself score points with a god or goddess or whatever you believe, a universe, then no. If you're doing something to maybe not go to a certain place, because I know a lot of people will say, well, I need to be good so I get into heaven, or I need to be good so I don't have karma come back. And well, that's deception, people. That is deception, and that is not living a truthful life. That is not living a life of honesty. That is not being sincere. And absolutely, there is absolutely zero chance of us having any form of self-discovery, because your actions are not sincere. They're not honest. We must learn to do things without ego, and we must learn to do things from a place of truth within ourselves in order for us to understand how to grow. And that's really what all this is about. is we're trying to understand who we are through lies and deception. Because I don't know how many of us do that. We say something or we give an excuse because we were invited maybe to a party or to a family's party and we don't feel like going, and we give an excuse. Oh, well, I'm sick, or something else came up and I can't make it. Well, then you're lying to somebody. Somebody took the time to invite you, and even if you don't want to go, sometimes it's better just to say, that you're not going, or stay, or go someplace and go for an hour and then dip out. I know there's been many times, but to lie to somebody that invites you to someplace or brings you to someplace or anything like that is a form of that we start slipping down. Because remember, from childbirth, we start to learn this stuff. We start to learn to do things on a daily basis, because remember, we watch our parents, we watch our surroundings, we watch our friends, we watch everyone around us. And as we're watching people and as we're learning that type of action is okay. Well, hey, you know what? If it's a little white lie and it's not going to hurt them and it's going to make them feel good, then what's the harm? There's a lot of harm to that. Matter of fact, the two rules that I have when someone is having trouble in a relationship or something, they come to me for help, is one, I don't hug them and touch them while they're crying and being emotional, and two is I don't lie to them. I don't have to be a hammer and slam them down and say, whoa girl, you totally messed up on that and it's all your fault why you did this. No, there are ways around it. But by being truthful to people, you help them understand their mistakes and those challenges. You help them see that by telling them that it's the other person's fault or whatever the situation is. I just use relationships a lot because I know a lot of us, I know a lot of times that's where we tend to lie, is when our friends are hurt or upset. But when we have those situations, we're stunting their growth. We are stopping them from growing because we're telling them that what your habits are doing are okay, and we're not allowing them to heal. And it's the same with us. How can we, think about this for a second. How can we grow and find ourselves and find out who we are and follow our heart? Hey, this is a full moon coming out. We have a full moon that's supposed to be follow your heart. How do you know what your heart desires if you lie to yourself all the time? If you lie to people, and that doesn't make you a terrible person. I'm not saying that you're all liars and you're all terrible people. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you have to understand that even the best of us, even that it's in our programming because of our society to bend the truth, as we like to say, to sprinkle little flakes of lies on everything to make everything look prettier. And it's funny because Caleb and I were just saying, and I said, the old saying goes, fake it till you make it. How many people fake it till you make it? And I changed it to lie till you make it, because I know there are so many people who don't understand that phrase. And what we do is we say, oh, I'm going to fake it till they make it. So that means, in my definition, that I'm going to create this image that I've done all this stuff and I do all this stuff and I'm so great and wonderful. So people come to me and they think, even though I have no experience or even though everything about my background is a lie. That's not faking it till you're making it. That is lying until you make it. That's deceitful until you make it. And so we have to be cautious and careful of what we're really looking at. So I want to ask you guys, how many of us do things on a daily basis that can be thought of as deception? And I really want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to think about that. Have you told a little white lie today? Did you say something when you shouldn't have said it? Did you say you were going to do something and kind of put a little bit of effort into it and not really? Because all these things tell us who we are. And that's the funny thing, is because so many of us are in a mode of chaos all the time, right? We're in chaos. We're in anger. We're in resentment. We're in all this stuff. We pick the same toxic relationships. We do all this stuff that we do. But then at the same time, we tell ourselves that we're good people, we're honest and everything. So I want you to start noticing, or taking a journal or anything, and start noticing every time and mark it down every time you tell a little white lie, or you don't tell the truth, or bend the truth just a little bit just to make it seem like, or when someone asks you, say, hey, you're doing this business, hey, what did you do? And you start to tell them all these things that you really didn't do, or you're exaggerating the things that you did. Start trying to understand that, because that is deception. That will keep you from self-discovery. And a lot of times we know what we're doing. And for some of us who are trying to work in honesty, a little bit of guilt is going to start creeping in. You shouldn't say it, but you're fearful because in our society, image is everything, right? As the old Sprite commercial said, or I think they said image is nothing. There's something like that. But in our society here in the US, image is everything. Everything is about money, materialism, image. And unless you have a certain following, no one's going to give you credibility. Unless you have certain status, no one's going to give you. And so I get and I understand why we chase these patterns, why we're out to please everybody, because we're sitting there thinking, well, I have to be this big superstar even from the get-go in order for me to be successful. And that is not true. We do not have to be that way in order to be successful. The true success comes from working with honesty. It does not matter who you are, what you do, where you go in life. It matters of all your choices. And that's why at the end of the show, I say it doesn't matter our abilities, our talents that make us who we are. It is our choices. Because in all those moments of truth and honesty, what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose to be honest, or are you going to choose to be dishonest? Are you going to choose to be with sincerity or deception? And those are the type of foundations that you must understand. I don't care what religion you are, what spirituality you are, if you're an atheist, if you love a god, if you love a goddess, if you love a universe, I don't care. This is how humanity has to evolve into understanding this. It goes beyond belief systems. It goes beyond these type of ideas. And we have to start looking at that. So I get it. It's easier for us in society to be dishonest. It is, because everyone's doing it. It's almost like it's almost as how people think, well, I'm not going to be nice to the world until the world starts being nice to me. Well, if everybody has that attitude, which kind of that's how we're doing it right now. I'm going to be as rude and as tough as everybody else. But you know what? If you start showing kindness to people and start showing compassion to people and understanding, they start changing the way they act towards you. And then they start changing the way they act towards others, because, hey, this is great. This is wonderful. I no longer have to put up that wall. And so it's the same concept. Just because other people are lying to you, just because other people are lying to make themselves feel great, eventually lies fall apart. They really do. Being dishonest falls apart. If we're in a road to self-discovery, if we're in a road, then we have to choose the honesty. In order for us to understand honesty, then it's sad, but we have to understand what it's like to be untruthful and to live with lies. If we can't understand happiness, if we don't have sadness, we can't understand excitement if we don't have boringness or dullness, whatever you want to call it, right? We can't understand day if we don't have night, right? And so I get why these things are in place. But the fact is the wonderful thing about life right now is consciousness is changing, especially with the jump right now. Consciousness is changing, and it's up to the souls that are advancing through this change to understand that, to leave behind your old belief systems, to leave behind what you think is true and all the lies and all the stuff that you normally do, and start evolving into a place of truth and honesty. All right, guys, we'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. If you're just joining me, we are talking about honesty and self-discovery. Like, two go hand in hand, right? Yeah, of course they do. And so we have to understand that, as I was saying before the break, we must become aware. You have to become aware of who you are. I know there are a lot of people that'll claim to be aware, that'll claim to be to advance, to claim to be an old soul, all these things, because we want to title ourselves. We want so much to be a part of something and to feel special that we will title ourselves anything. And that's where the deceit comes in. When we are chasing the ego, when we are chasing our insecurities and the need to be loved, the need for affection, the need to feel special, when we are chasing that because in our mind we're broken, we're not whole, we're waiting for someone to come in and save us. When we are chasing those ideas, this is why being untruthful and deceit happens so much. And we cannot start to grow until we start to become aware. And unfortunately, the sad part about this is that it's part of our routine. Most of us have such a routine of being dishonest that we live in it almost habit. And at first, it's going to be very hard for us to kind of recognize. It's very hard for us to recognize our own ego. It's very hard for us to recognize our own insecurities, our own stuff. Because why? Because one, we don't want to see it. We don't want to admit to ourselves that, you know what, these are the type of things that's happening. Like this is who I am. And because we think, oh, we're a bad person because no. Look, people, we all do it. We've all been dishonest. We've all cheated. We've all done things that we're not proud of us. There is not a single soul, no matter how advanced the soul is on this earth, there is not a single person on this earth that hasn't done anything that they're not proud of. And so to sit there and try to mask who we are and try to deny who we are, well, that's deceit in itself, because we're so used to living our habits that, and I know that one of my friends used to say this all the time, because they were a big time liar. They lied about everything constantly because they were so insecure that they wanted to make themselves feel so much better about themselves. And they used to sit there and say, well, and we'd bring it up. We'd be like, doesn't that bother you that you just lie to people and you make up stories as is and just even fabrications that everybody knew that weren't true? And they said, well, and they would say, well, yeah, well, it bothered me at first, but once you start lying a lot, it's just like anything. And it's true, because we get so used to being dishonest with ourselves and being dishonest with everybody that it becomes habit. And so far, the guilt goes away and all these things start to trickle away because that emotional attachment to those ideas aren't there anymore. And then all of a sudden it becomes like a life support. You need it. You need to be able to lie your way into success. And that is always success built on a shaky foundation. Tell yourself it's okay that I've been a deceitful person. I've been untruthful. Tell yourself that you've been untruthful towards other situations, people, etc. And I get it. Sometimes you don't want to hurt someone else's feelings, but you cannot find out who you are. How are you if you can't tell somebody else if you're so afraid to hurt somebody else's feelings, how are you going to be honest with yourself? Because reflection and self-discovery, personal growth, all these things, happiness, all these things that everybody wants, balance and everything, all these things can only come in truth, because truth is the only thing that matters. And so if you can't be honest with somebody else because you're afraid to hurt their feelings, well, unfortunately, you know what? We're going to be in the same boat. We're not going to be able to even come close, because guess what? you're not going to want to hurt your feelings either. And that's the scary slope that you're going to trickle down. And as long as you're afraid to hurt your own feelings, then you're going to be stuck in this loop. Because it sometimes, well, not sometimes, but transformation, personal growth, all these things, self-discovery, balance, all these things that you have to do, you must go through that pain. You must be able to recognize, look yourself in that mirror and say, you know what? I love you. You're a great and wonderful person, but you do these things and you list them and you recognize them and you focus on them and you say, well, why are these things happening? Because if I want to find out who Miss Raina is, who is Miss Raina? Well, it's not the things that I do. It's not the things that I am. It's not the championships that I win in softball or football or any sports, swimming and that. It's not the friends I have. It's not how much success, money I make. Who is Miss Raina? It's not being a spirit guide. It's not being a soul sage. It's not being this radio show host. It's not that. So who is Miss Raina? Well, what are my choices? What are my actions? What are my intentions? Are they sincere? Because if they are, then that tells me who I am. If they're not, then that tells me, well, okay, that doesn't mean I'm a bad person, but why am I not sincere? Why do I feel the need to lie? Am I protecting myself? Because a lot of times we do. I know my past personal life, I've had to protect myself many times. I've had to make sure, because yes, sometimes this is a cold, cruel world. Yes, I will admit that. Sometimes people can be ruthless and merciless and it's an all-out war sometimes, and I get that. So I get sometimes lying for survival. I've had to do it. Doesn't make it enjoyable, at least for me. But then I moved away because I didn't want to be that person that had to lie for survival. I said there's got to be other places I can live and be and jobs I can do where I can align myself with who I am and be truthful, because, hey, you know what? The journey of self-discovery is never ending. You think that you're gonna sit here and discover who you are in one lifetime, and poof, we're enlightened. Hey, everybody, I'm enlightened because I discovered myself. Well, guess what? You may have discovered yourself here, but in another year or 6 months, there's a few more steps down. And then you think, oh, wow, there's something else and then there's a few more steps down, and so on and so on and so on. And as the old saying goes, down the rabbit hole, right? How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And of course, yes, I know that's a little cliche from 2006, but you know, but it's true. And so self-discovery never ends. Honesty never ends. Your choices of who you are and what you're going to do never ends. It's a lifelong journey. From the time you start to the time you go back home, it is a lifelong journey. And then when you come back as another person, whether you come back as a male, female, whether you come back depending on your race, depending on what goes on, your sexuality, then there's a whole new world again of self-discovery. And you got to start it all over. This isn't the first life that you guys have had, especially if you're listening to this show, because a lot of younger souls don't like this show. They don't want to hear it. They believe what they believe, and they think that this type of show is woo-woo or kooky, and it's not. And you know that as an older soul, as you're growing, you start understanding, wow, the stretch of what we have to go through. See, dependency, when you're codependent on an idea or religion or spirituality or politics or whatever, that's because you are working with dishonesty. You don't want to self-discover. You attach yourself to an idea because this idea gives you gratification. It gives you the feeling of being connected to something, to being a part of something. But the only truth in the matter that you need to be connected to is yourself. When you're connected to yourself in honesty and sincerity, this strength, this connectiveness is everything that you ever want. It's the most amazing feeling that you do. So I always tell people that we have to stop creating excuses. You have to stop the excuses, people. If you've done something that maybe hurt someone else, or you lied to somebody else, or you just weren't honest or whatever, don't give excuses anymore. Don't say, well, it happened because of this, or I did it because of this, or I thought you'd meant this, or whatever. Just be honest. Say, you know what? okay, it's my responsibility. It's my thing because I'm taking responsibility. I'm being honest. I'm being sincere. And in order for me to grow, I need to stop making the excuses, because the people who make the excuses are the people who don't grow. Plain and simple. The people who make the excuses don't grow. And if you don't believe me, watch your friends, watch your family members, watch all the people that you grew up with or are growing up with that constantly make excuses. They are doing the same thing now as they did 20, 30 years ago. They're the same type of person doing the same habits. And that's because they make excuses. They don't want to grow. But the great and wonderful thing about facing that trauma, facing that pain, facing whatever it is, that honesty about who you are and facing who you've been in the past and who you are at this moment is that it opens up a whole new world. I've talked about this jump that's coming up, and we're going to do a show later, plus a video coming up in another week about the jump. And I'm going to talk about this for the next 4 years, because the jump that's going on right now is so important to our growth. And this is something that you must understand. You must start to resolve your dishonesty, your deceit. You must start to resolve the anger and resentment and move towards that type of honesty to self-discovery. Because the only way you raise vibration is by letting go of the low vibration or resolving it and saying, hey, I don't need this anymore. It's pretty similar to growing up. If when we're kids, right, we hold on to our teddy bears, we hold on to our stuffed animals or our blankets, and we need it because it's security, right? That's the same idea as people who hold on to religion, politics, spirituality, whatever it is, that they need it, and their belief system is correct because it gives them a sense of security, it gives them a sense of purpose. Although it's false, just like a blanket, just like a teddy bear or whatever, it's a false sense of security. But their idea and their limited perspective, that's what's going on. So as we grow, as we get mature, we start to grow up. What ends up happening? We start to say, hey, you know what? I don't need this teddy bear anymore. I don't need this blanket anymore. You know what? I don't need the nightlight anymore. And by the way, I still sleep with the nightlight. I do. I love the green colors of the nightlight. But we don't need that anymore. We start to mature and we let go of it. And the funny thing is as most of us grow up, we don't let go of our insecurities. We don't let go of our taught belief systems. We don't let go of these things. We hold on to them. We fight over politics left and right. We think that the president or our leader is going to change our lives, but no, people, you change your life. You think that a god or goddess is going to change your life, but no, you change your life. You think a universe or karma is going to change your life if you do certain things. No, people, you do. And the only way you start to do it is by doing this. And until you learn that lesson, you're going to be stuck like this. It is going to be over and over and over, repeated lifetime. And that's not karma. That's just how we set things up. It's not being punished. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That doesn't mean, hey, that I didn't learn the lesson, I'm going to get punished until I do it right. No, it's not that idea. You must learn to be independent, and that starts with stopping making excuses and to stop and stop making justifications. If you do something, if something happens, don't justify it. There's no reason to justify it, because someone who is honest and someone who is self-discovered has no justification. They don't need it, because there's no room for justification. If something is done to them, it's okay to have emotion for a while. It's okay to be upset for something, but when you have any form of justification, then what ends up happening is you start to change it right away. You start to change what you're doing, and you start to change everything about you, because you feel that anger, you feel that emotion, you feel all that stuff going at you, and then the next thing you know, you're just like, you get involved and you get engrossed in the drama. And so someone who is self says, you know what? Hey, they did this to me. I'm mad for a few days. I'm mad because my ego or something was wounded. But at the same time, I'm going to resolve myself. I'm going to walk away, and then you figure out the way you work you best through your challenges or your emotions, and you work through it and you move on. I have a Bob out there for a reason. Hey, one of the biggest things that I've had trouble with is my temper. And I've always been a little excited, on the a little excited side. I've always had a temper. I've always had this thing where I get mad sometimes quickly, and I've learned to control a lot of it. I still got a ways to go, to be honest with you. But I know that I'm honest with myself. And when I catch myself getting all riled up, I have to stop myself. Doesn't always work. But a lot of times, even when I've learned to voice myself in a way where I don't get angry anymore. People might think I'm angry, or people might get upset, but internally I can voice myself strongly and not be upset. And 2 seconds later, I'm back to joking around and saying, okay, this bothers me, blah, blah, talking, saying it. And as soon as it's over, boom, I'm back to smiling and joking around, because that's honesty. That's self-discovery. I know, as a person that's self-discovered, that it's not worth my time to be upset anymore. It's not worth my time to feel right or wronged and need justification and need karma and a god or a goddess to punish somebody else for me. I don't want anybody else, but no matter what somebody else does to me, I don't want somebody else punished, because then what does that say about me? In honesty, what does that say about me? It says that I'm as terrible as that person, right? Because if I'm wishing harm on somebody else, or karma to go out and get you, or God to go punish you, maybe Zeus, throw down that lightning bolt and zap you when you're taking your walk, then I'm not really being an honest person, because I'm kind of being mean, wouldn't it? And it seems like that. So we have to walk away from the justifications of being dishonest. If you're dishonest, you're dishonest. There's no justification for it. If you're lying to people and you're cheating people and you're doing all these things and white lies, even if you think that you're helping somebody, there's no justification for it. You're actually hurting somebody by lying to them, even if it's in their moment of need. And that's something we all have to understand. One of the hardest things, and I get this, is when our friends or our family members or our brothers or sisters are really upset over a situation, maybe a boyfriend or girlfriend or job loss or something. And then you try to comfort them. You think by hugging them and comforting them and telling them lies, even if they're just white lies, say, no, don't worry, it's their fault. And, they don't know how, but maybe they're screwing up. Maybe they're not doing the job properly. And maybe that's the reason why they keep losing the job or keep losing the partner or whatever the situation is. And by you being dishonest, you're training them. As I said earlier today, you're training them to be that victim. And that's what usually goes hand in hand with being dishonest, right? And needing justification is that victim. And I know we go into being a victim all the time, so I'm not going to go into that. But isn't that kind of the truth with it? So when we're looking at that situation, we have to start shifting our perception. It is up to you to understand what type of life you want to be able to have in order for us to discover who we are. So, all right, guys, I need a drink of water, and we're going to be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back for the last third. And I know all the time I always say halves, and I don't know, it's habit. I know the show is broken up to thirds. And even, it's funny, is even when we have the guests on the show, I always tell them, all right, you did the first half good, and you did the second. I don't know. I was never great at fractions. I really wasn't. And to think about fractions all over again, I just don't want to do them. But I want to say hi to Natalie Camberos. Natalie, it's great to hear from you, honestly. I know know Caleb's answering the questions right now, but thank you so much for joining. I hope you're doing well up there. I know it's cold up there, and the next time I get back from Chicago, or the next time I go up to Chicago, you and me, girl, are getting together for some lunch or dinner, or maybe some fiesta or something. So, all right, guys. So one of the things that I want to talk about, the last thing, is honor. And honor is something that's very important to me. And if we are going to learn to develop who we are, we have to understand the word honor. Honor was a big word back in the old days. Everything was about honor. Your word was your honor. And if you had no honor, you meant nothing. It doesn't matter what your status was. It doesn't matter how much money you made, if you were a king, queen, if you were a knight, if you were whatever you were. If you had no honor, you had nothing. And it's funny how life has changed. It's funny how life has transitioned into this idea of saying, well, hey, it's okay that I lie. It's okay that I lie. As long as I make money, as long as I have the status, as long as I do this, my life is good. And we need to change that. We need to shift that. We need to be able to understand that honor is so much more, because honor is of the highest respect and recognition or esteem. It's a sense of ethical conduct. And so think about that. Ethical conduct. Now, ethics, just like morals, are judgments. Because to each his own. Some people believe in one thing and think it's okay. Other people believe in other things and think it's okay. So ethics and morals are kind of subjective, right? They're really it depends on the person and what they really think. But at the same time, if we hold true our honor to honesty, if we hold those two together, honest and honesty, then we can start to understand of the highest respect. Because what do we want? I know I'm big on respect. I am huge on respect. When I don't feel respected by somebody, a partner, a friend, a team that I'm on, or anybody, just in our daily actions, you will see me change. And the reason why I change is because then my energy shifts from, okay, I was polite to this person, I was nice to this person, to, okay, this person kind of doesn't deserve some of the attention that I'm giving them because they're not respecting and honoring me. And at the same time, I'm still courteous, I'm still friendly towards them, but then my sense of conduct changes in the sense of saying, okay, well, this person doesn't have the honor. And so rather than me getting mad and upset and saying, why aren't you treating me well? Why aren't you doing this? And holding them to ethical conduct that I think that they should have, I see what they're really about. And I see, well, where they're at in their evolution, where they're at in their life is where they need to be. And so in their idea of honor, they're okay with who they are. And that's fine. But my honor, my honesty, my sense of ethical conduct is a little bit different. To me, respect is recognition and being esteemed. So that means that I want to treat everybody as the old rule says, right? The old golden rule, do unto others as others would do unto you, and, vice versa. And I am a big believer in that. I believe in treating people the way they want to be treated because I know how I want to be treated. I am going to give every person the same amount of respect. It doesn't matter if they work at McDonald's. It doesn't matter if they're a doctor. It doesn't matter if they clean up the streets. It doesn't matter if they work at Massage Envy, whatever. It doesn't matter. Every person is equal in my eyes, and that's the way it should be. Because when I respect myself, shouldn't I normally respect other people? Absolutely. Because when you don't respect yourself, it's when you become angry, right? When you're feeling disrespected, when you're feeling those insecurities of not being loved, not being accepted, maybe our childhood had some trauma to it, or we come from a family that didn't do too well, and that those type of insecurities creep in. And when those type of insecurities creep in, our honor changes because our honesty changes. And so those type of ideas will change and our ethical conduct will change. And so again, that's why I say it's subjective. But when you start to say, you know what, regardless of how people are going to act towards me, I am going to act this way, because it doesn't say anything about them. It says something about you. Honor to me means respect. If I respect who I am, that's because I work in honesty. It doesn't matter if I know who I am. It doesn't matter if I'm the most spiritual person in the world, or most religious, or most wonderful person in the world. It matters how I feel about myself. It matters what I want from myself. And I say, you know what? I'm not perfect, because trust me, I am far from perfect. But I demand certain things from myself. I demand me to try hard. I demand 110% every single day. And I want that respect from myself, because every single morning I have to look at this face. I have to wake up and say, hey, beautiful, what's going on? This is, how's your day going so far? Oh, let's get up and start our day. And I have to respect what I see in the mirror. I have to respect the body that I'm in. And that goes along with eating healthier and doing. Why do you think I'm spending so much? I abused my body for so many years because I had respect in some ways, but in other areas I didn't, because I didn't care, because I had unresolved emotions and unresolved trauma from my past that I never dealt with. And so I abused my body. Now, my body gave me a choice. It made me collapse on a football field, and it said, now choose. Do you love yourself or don't you? You can't have it both ways anymore, Miss Raina. You got to choose one. Do you love yourself or don't you? Because if you don't, hey, let's check out and go back home. If you do, then let's change and be who you were meant to be. And I said, you know what? As I was laying there on the football field and I was going in and out of consciousness, and I said, you know what? I need to make that choice. And that's the choice I made. And from that moment on, things have shifted for me. Things changed for me. The way I look at things, the way I feel, things that I used to enjoy, I don't anymore. And things that I didn't enjoy, I have an appreciation for it. And things that I love, I have a deep appreciation for it. I love looking in the mirror every day at who I am. And hey, I'm at the heaviest I've ever been. I used to be all muscular, be all fit and I loved myself a lot less. And one day I'll get back there. But the fact is I have to have respect for the body that I'm in. I have to respect my thoughts, the work that I do, and every aspect that I have to be in. You must live in respect and honor. You must speak in honor. It has everything to do with self-discovery. Many of us do not find self-discovery because we think of it as our barriers and the challenges that we have are so difficult, that these life challenges that we have are so difficult that it seems to block your path. One of the worst things I hear people say is, I'm stuck. No, honey, you are not stuck. You are not stuck. There is no such thing as stuck. You are in every spot that you need to be, no matter what. Whether you believe a God put you there, or a universe, or yourself, or fate, whatever you believe, you are exactly where you need to be. And that idea you have to understand. And so, yes, it seems like as long as you have that idea of being stuck, it seems like you never get anywhere, like you're always running in mud, or you're running in the same circle over and over. And that's why we date the same type of people. We run into the same problems with our friends. We have the friendships that constantly are toxic to us because of those ideas, because we think that these barriers are so insurmountable that we look up and we're like, oh my God, look at all that garbage from my past. How am I ever going to get through that? I have no clue. How am I ever going to climb that? You don't have to climb it. You don't have to do that. You have to start taking it down. You have to start understanding, well, you know what? This is my junk. This is what I have to deal with. And you have to start being able to say, you know what? I'm going to be honest with myself. This scares me, because it should, because our past does scare us. That's the reason why we hold on to it. That's the reason why we refuse to let go of it, and why we don't work through it, is because it scares us. And you know what? Honestly, it's okay to be afraid. There are times I've dealt with stuff in my past and I scratched my head and I'm like, I really don't want to deal with this, because it's going to bring back a flood of emotions, flood of horrible memories, where I just want to stick my head in the ground like an ostrich and just hide. And I get it, but you have to understand that it must be done in order for us to discover who we are. If you want to change and be the person that you know you are in that heart, and I know you're feeling that. I know as you're listening to this, you're feeling that sense of that gravitational pull inward towards that heart and your thought process. That's because you're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to discover who you are. You're trying to understand who am I? And that's one of the greatest things. That's why our business is called I Am Evolution, because when you are I Am instead of all these other things, you are the most powerful person in the world. Nothing can stop you, no matter what anyone else says. And that's the wonderful thing about changing and looking at this wall of self-discovery and all these traumas and everything, saying, wow, this is too much. Just saying, you know what? I can do this. I am strong. I am confident. I am these things. But it doesn't happen overnight. You have to understand that you're going to feel stuck for a while. You're going to feel like you never get anywhere because you've never been taught how to move past your trauma. You've never been taught how to move on past these things that really bother you. Because let's be truthful. If we come from a home that maybe didn't have the best parents, then we're always going to chase it. If we come from a childhood where we never had friends, well, we're always going to be wanting friends. If we were growing up and we never had relationships, or we've had toxic relationships, then we're always going to be chasing relationships because of this idea that of external validation. And so we a lot of times we turn to books and classes and teachers to fix us. And we think that, oh, let me do self-help. Let me read all these spiritual books. And I was talking to this, we were doing a guest recording today, and we were talking about this. And the guest, we were saying, you know, we take all these books and classes and teachers, and we read all this stuff from Buddhists and avatars and Jesus and Allah and all these things. And we think it's going to fix us. We think we're going to become enlightened. But it doesn't work like that. You have to put in the work. You have to understand that nothing externally fixes you but you. When I was younger, especially in my evolution, past lives, I used to pray to a God all the time and thinking it was going to change it. And it never did. Even in this lifetime, I used to pray to a god and goddess. I used to pray to Isis and different gods from Egypt and everything like that. And I used to, and nothing ever worked for me. And no matter when I was Catholic, I used to pray to God and Jesus. When I would change religions and spirituality, I would pray to that God or universe or whatever. And nothing. And my guides would constantly tell me, Raina, it's you. Raina, it's you. And they would show me this picture that said self-reliance in my head all the time. And it used to drive me absolutely nuts because I used to be like, no, I want the answer, or I want your help. I'm begging you guys for help. And then I would see this word flash in front of my head, and it would say self-reliance, or they just point at me, and I'd be like, oh, this would drive me nuts. It wasn't until I said, okay, fine, I'm going to be reliant. You know what? If you guys don't want to help me, I'm going to start doing what I need to do for me. And it was out of anger at first. And I was going to prove my guides wrong. I was going to prove everybody wrong that I could. And you know what? I did. But now it's for a different reason, because now I realize the power of self. Now I realize when I work in truth, I work in honesty, and I work with honor, that self-discovery comes because I believe in myself. I know what I can do, and so can you. You can start understanding. And this isn't the power of positive thinking or the power of now or anything like that. It's truth. It's honesty. It's honor. When you start to work in those sections, when you start to work with those ideas, what ends up happening is all of that stuff starts to come. Strength, courage, wisdom. It comes to you. You no longer need to lie because you're not afraid. You're not afraid of what somebody else is going to think of you. I get it. I speak about a lot of things that go against a lot of society. I get it. I do. And people look at me and say, oh, here comes Miss Raina. She's, a little cuckoo over there. She thinks this. And if you do this is, but I'm sure in who I am. It took me a while to get there. It wasn't easy, but I'm sure of who I am. I know what I teach is true. I know who I am is true. And that's all that matters. If I go to my grave and the only person in the world that ever takes any ounce of interest in me is me, then I'm the most successful person in the world. I'm the most self-discovered person in the world. And isn't that what you want? don't you want to just know that you are in that mode of honesty, honor, and self-discovery? Because that's really what it's about. It's not about books. It's not about fixing us. It's not about fixing the world or changing the world. It's not about getting all this guidance from guides and angels and butterflies and fairies and all this stuff. It's not about all these theories. It's about seeking information from who you are and finding out who you are. That's the true form of self-discovery. So, all right, guys, I think that's tonight for the show. And, it's, my throat is dry. It's been a long day. We've been doing recording. That's the reason why I have makeup, is because we've been doing recordings. Normally, I don't do makeup. You guys know that. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you want to follow us on our Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation. Our YouTube is Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Make sure you visit my website, soulandspiritguide.com, and sign up for our newsletter to receive hidden shows, VIP access, and special guest offers when we have guests on. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com, because you guys know I will always answer you guys personally. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.